I used to be in LPS Tube and I really wanted to contribute to it, but Hasbro wasn't producing any Gen 1 or 2 pets. So as I was looking for a chart to refer to the different LPS generations, I realized that there is the Kenner Toys era, which is the actual Generation 1 LPS. So really, I just mean the majority of Generation 2. Only the later generations, which really wasn't liked by the LPS community. So I got a lot of fakes and basic pets since I basically have scraps. The official company stopped producing it, so I got what I could take. But later in my teen years, I found Gacha Life. It was a fun, cutesy dress-up game with no upfront costs and easy to download. You could easily put on any accessories or draw your own accessories for your avatar through third-party software, whereas with LPS, you had to search online for any old gen LPS, which was an upfront cost, and for accessories, you'd have to sew or get someone else to. I guess there are other ways to make accessories, but sewing and wire necklaces were the main ways I accessorized them. So Gacha Life / Club being digital, it removes upfront costs, which makes it more accessible to younger people and otherwise. Along with the lack of upfront costs and easy customization, it is tremendously easy to set up backgrounds since it's all digital. You just swipe through a couple of menus and click. I distinctly remember having various sets with numerous parts taking up physical space and losing items, which made the set incomplete and just a little more barren. There was also a fake grass mat that I got, and it had a tendency to shed, which made my play area a bit messy. As for community, while I'm sure it existed, I didn't really encounter suggestive content. I mean, sure, one series had EDs, another had murder, but it was a different flavor of mature topics than the Heat communities across the Gacha communities. It really did suck that Heat was pretty common, or at least not so niche compared to the LPS community. Thankfully, I was older when I first heard about it, but because of the Heat, Gacha in general was associated with the negative rather than the positive. I have no doubt that there is a genuinely creative and positive side to the Gacha communities, but unfortunately, the Heaters got more attention, and from an outsider point of view, it drowned the good side out. I feel like if something as accessible as Gacha Life existed in the older internet of LPS Tube, then that'd feel just perfect to me. Just a swell time. LPS Tube was a time of creativity, openness, and freedom that the modern internet doesn't have big pockets of. Like, it wasn't perfect by any means, but trends and metrics, I'd like to think, were less than a whisper to those content creators. It was a more authentic and relaxed time online where most people just stayed in their bubbles. But all this talk does make me wonder how the physical toy industry is doing, considering they're competing with content creators. Like, one time I was shopping and I found CoComelon merch, which was certainly quite something. Because I remember they started off on YouTube at the very least. They're competing with video games as well, and the internet at large. Well, I think that should be it pretty much. I hope that Gacha Life has a nice community. I assume what happened to Gacha Life is pretty much what happened to LPS Tube. It got really small, and maybe there could be someone filling in the shoes of the previous content creators, like a new generation. But I am not too sure.